Okay, this is a PDF called Plain Indian. Watch this. A 1912 photograph in the New York Herald features 5 indigenous peoples in varying states of Indian dress, meaning they was all dressed in Indian regalia. It says including feathers, headdresses, and beaded necklaces. Among the portrait of these Indians in New York is Stephen Glory, a Filipino. You see, he's a Filipino. He's not even an indigenous person. He's not even Indian. But watch this. It says, like his Native American counterparts, Glory is dressed in a plains-style headdress that was popular in portraits and touring Indian shows at that time. Simultaneously labeled as one of the Indians in the image and as a Filipino. Glory's presence in the photograph recalls the shifting and slippery racial categories for Filipinos in the aftermath of the Spanish-American and Philippine-American wars. You see that? It says the racial categories, meaning they started changing Filipinos' race to Native Americans. This lines up with Asian slaves in Mexico. Watch this. It says, by the time the image was taken in 1912, Glory, a former student of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, had joined a traveling Indian show in New York and changed his identity from Stephen Glory, a Filipino, to Stephen Redleaf, a Pueblo.
Buffalo Bill and Pawnee Bill.
Meaning a Pueblo Indian. He changed his race from a Filipino to a Pueblo Indian. He is now considered an Indian. So what are they telling you? That some of these people that they were calling Native Americans were in fact Filipinos. They were not actually indigenous people, but yet they still call these people Native Americans. These Filipinos were just incorporated into Indian society, and they started calling them Indians, even though they wasn't. But watch this. Let's go to the book Asian Slaves in Mexico, and let's read the introduction. Now, this is the introduction in the book Asian Slaves in Mexico. Watch this. It says, during the late 16th and 17th centuries, countless slaves from culturally diverse communities in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia journeyed to Mexico on the ships of the Manila galleon. Upon arrival in Mexico, they were grouped together and categorized as chinos. So all of these Filipinos and anybody that was of Asian descent was all grouped together and categorized as chinos.
That's Chinese and Filipino together.
Their experience illustrates the interconnectedness of Spain's colonies and the reach of the crown, which brought people together from Africa, the Americas, Asia, and Europe in a historically unprecedented way. In time, Chinos in Mexico came to be treated under the law as Indians, becoming indigenous vassals of the Spanish crown after 1672. Becoming. That's the same thing we just read in the PDF. That's the same exact thing we just read. They became indigenous. It says the implications of this legal change were enormous. As Indians, rather than Chinos, they could no longer be held as slaves. Tatiana tracks Chino's complex journey from the slave market in Manila to the streets of Mexico City, and from bondage to liberty. In doing so, she challenges commonly held assumptions about the uniformity of the slave experience in the Americas. You see that? They took these Filipinos and changed their race to Native American, indigenous. These people started taking on these titles, bottom line.
Exactly.